Welcome everyone, I'm Mallory Isaacs. Today's topic discusses what it means to live in an age-friendly city. What is an age-friendly city, you might ask? It's one that ensures that all residents, especially elderly residents, are active, healthy, and engaged in their community. Washington, D.C. has made several strides in this area. In the studio today, we have with us Gail Cohn, Age-Friendly City D.C. Coordinator, Louis Davis Jr., State Director of District of Columbia AARP, Camille Williams, Chief of Staff for the District of Columbia Office on Aging, and Howard Straker, Assistant Professor at George Washington University. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we really get started and before we delve into this topic, let's touch on what is an age-friendly city? What does that mean? Let's define that. Who wants to go first? Gail, do you want to go first?
Sure. But this is everyone's story, so
Okay,
I have to tell you that I hope that everyone else jumps in. The World Health Organization brought forward this initiative because there was a recognition that across the world, population in cities is growing older. That's partly because most older people live in cities, but also because we're all living longer, fortunately for us.
Awesome, awesome.
So with that, I would say that it was you, Louis, who pulled this initiative up and convinced the leadership that it was something that deserved some attention.
Thank you, Gail. As State Director for AARP, we did approach 9 pastors, senior pastors of 9 congregations here in D.C. Back in the winter of 2011.
Okay.
And asked them what was on the hearts and minds of their parishioners, their congregants. And repeatedly we heard back from them about their populations that were in their late 40s and on up, who had issues around housing, age discrimination, employment issues, access to quality health care and the like. And we teased them with a conversation about what would it look like to make the District of Columbia friendly for people of all ages. Those 9 pastors then signed onto a letter encouraging and inviting Mayor Gray to start down the path, as Gail described, of making the district an age-friendly city. The mayor accepted our invitation in October of 2012, and we're where we are today, on our way to having a action plan, a strategic plan that will launch the district into becoming an official age-friendly city in the world.
That's awesome. And going back to what you said, you know, people of all ages are living in the city longer. So what does that mean? So if they're living in the city longer and we're living longer, essentially, how do we necessarily go about making the city age-friendly? We know we've kind of laid the groundwork by getting the mayor's attention, but what's the development after that? How do you go about making the city kind of adaptable and friendly for everybody?
So the World Health Organization has a paradigm, a way of thinking that we should proceed, which is very sensible. And that starts with exactly what Louis did with the congregations. Listen to people. But as we did that, and this is the lead of the Office on Aging, the needs assessment got done.
Most definitely. When AARP approached the DC Office on Aging, it was perfect timing because we were already in the midst of conducting our senior needs assessment, which was a much needed study.
And that's just basically kind of getting an assessment and feel of what that particular population needs?
Exactly, to better understand the gaps and needs of the population that we serve, which are primarily seniors, people with disabilities, living with disabilities, and caregivers. And the last assessment of this nature was done back in 1975.
Wow.
So in order for us to accurately reshape our programs and to ensure that we were fully meeting the needs of seniors of today, we needed this study. And with that, we took the discoveries and the findings from that assessment and then crafted our agency strategic plan, which included age-friendly city as the #1 goal, and then we had other goals such as the expansion of our transportation and meal programs, making our senior wellness centers appealable to the baby boomer population, that's right, and creating new partnerships, and that's just to name a few of the goals that we had included in our plan.
Awesome. Now I understand there's this task force in existence. I don't really know what it is, but it sounds kind of like it's responsible for kind of going out and implementing aspects of what it means to have an age-friendly city. And I think GW is involved as well.
Yes,
as well,
so
Howard?
the task force is made up of a number of people.
Okay.
President of the university, Stephen Knapp, is one of the co-leaders of the task force.
Okay.
And has committed George Washington, because we've already committed to service and being, citizens of the community of
Right.
DC,
Yeah.
to any way we can be part of that, and that's including, this year as the freshmen came in the fall, the freshmen actually helped go around the city and gather information from residents to kind of inform the task force as they're doing their work.
So kind of based on the initial research and the needs assessment, how many residents were interested in this initiative? How many residents really thought it was important to develop and ensure that DC is an age-friendly city? Did you hear kind of like a resounding yes, a resounding disinterest, or no? What was the feedback?
Can I start and then pass it to Gail?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Before Gail, before the district had
BG.
before the District of Columbia had the brilliance to put Gail in a position as their coordinator. At AARP, we had started listening to our 89,000 members in the District of Columbia. We sent out a 10-page survey and got 930 responses to a 10-page survey.
That's amazing.
We then collected 1,400 what we call comment cards. So as we moved around the city, we invited people to comment on one or more of the WHO 8 domains that are in keeping with AARP's Livable Communities principles. And what we heard resoundingly, and I think you'll hear the same thing when we handed, we started this work before Gail was in her position, and then we handed off and then worked in partnership with the DC Office on Aging and Gail and Deputy Mayor Bibi Otero, some of the similar things. Prices of housing, access to quality foods, there's still food deserts throughout the district, walkability issues, intersections that are not friendly for a woman pushing a baby stroller, let alone someone on crutches, whether they're 18 or 83. People east of the river telling us they didn't have a sit-down restaurant with a white tablecloth where a husband could take his wife on the 25th anniversary.
Wow.
They shouldn't have to drive across the District of Columbia to find that restaurant. They should have that restaurant in their neighborhood. These are some of the things that we've heard.
So that kind of sounds like it requires a little more community involvement. I hear the theme of the restaurants and food deserts. When you hear that, you think of maybe a lack of fresh vegetables, a lack of grocery stores, too many fast foods. Have you had any involvement with the Restaurant Association or maybe some restaurants or small business owners to kind of tie in developing certain parts of the city and to ensure that they're a little more age friendly?
I'll start, but Louis, you're going to have a piece in this. We have a business initiative that is at this point well organized, using the DC Economic Partnerships as the administrator, who are looking for best practices in businesses across DC in order for them to attract customers. And those who are older as customers consume not only for themselves, but for their children, and if they have grandchildren, then they're interested in those as well.
Whole family.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of business to be obtained by becoming more age friendly. And AARP has been very supportive of that initiative.
Thank you. We are a social mission organization with a membership.
Yeah.
33 million nationwide, but 89,000 right here in the District of Columbia.
That's
And if there's a council member or a council member running for mayor, we have their names pledging to make the DC Age-Friendly Initiative a reality. So even though this starts in the mayor's office with the mayor accepting the invitation, it requires full participation from the city council and every agency of the District of Columbia. And we're happy to have had David Catania and Muriel Bowser, sitting council members who've signed on to that pledge. So if they're watching, I want to remind them of that, because my job and my team is to be a thorn in the side of our friends and our allies and those who need a nudge to do the right thing for people 50 and older. So we're going to partner with DCOA going forward as we have in the past, with Gail and Bibi Otero to make the city age friendly. One of the things I'd like to challenge the council members to do is to start a healthy little competition to get businesses in their wards to be age friendly and take a pledge to be so. Other cities have done that around the world. We should do that here in DC.
That sounds like an awesome charge. And I think that would be a really great way to continue to get the city involved. Just kind of thinking long term, if you will, what do you think the impact of your work has on the community or will have on the community in maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now?
Well, the Age-Friendly City strategic plan overall will take about a 5-year period.
Okay.
We're in the implementation and sort of brainstorming phase, and so we're in technically phase 3.
Okay.
We started back in 2012. We're now headed towards our strategic plan and polishing that up and distributing that, and then we have 2 years to basically implement that, and then we'll wait for the World Health Organization to approve what we've done and evaluate our plan to see how far along have we gotten and have we accomplished our goals. So I think 5 years is a little bit short in terms of timing, because it takes a lot, as you can tell, to pull all of the community input together and roll all of this out in a very uniformed, sort of strategic way. But we're expecting the impact basically to be that we're living in a city where, again, it's not just a city that's friendly for those that are aging, but also friendly to that pregnant woman, friendly to people living with disabilities, friendly to all those that visit. We really want to make sure that it's an all-inclusive initiative and movement for everyone.
Perfect.
The good news about it, real quick, is that we have even more time than that, because when the Age-Friendly Initiative is done correctly, you're changing the fabric in the way the government and the community operates. So it lives on forever. So we're trying to bake this into the DNA
Right.
of the way the city operates. So it lives beyond the next mayor, lives beyond the next city council, and going on.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know, and when you think about it, that's pretty much one of the ways initiatives become successful. They start off kind of with this awareness phase, getting people to kind of understand that this is important, you should care about that. And I think, when we come back after the break, we can talk a little bit more about the impact and the influence of the amazing work that you guys are doing in the community. So we'll be right back, more in just a moment. Thanks so much.
¿Sabías que la Oficina del Envejecimiento en Washington, D.C. le brinda ayuda a las personas de 60 años de edad en adelante, así como también a las discapacitadas? Proveemos alimentos a 60 sitios, ofrecemos clases de nutrición, hacemos demostraciones sobre cómo mantenerse en forma y tenemos programas de ayuda para los familiares y a las personas que cuidan de los adultos mayores. ¿Sabías que tenemos una campaña de alerta en el distrito para ayudar a localizar a las personas mayores que están desaparecidas y que le ayudamos a los adultos mayores a recibir la ayuda necesaria? Para más información, por favor, visita nuestra página www.dcoa.dc.gov o llama al 202-724-5622.
Welcome back. We are here today talking about being active in an age-friendly city. So when we kind of left before the break, we're talking a little bit about the impact. And so I understand that there are these domains or categories, if you will, that the World Health Organization established to kind of set the outline for the initiative and kind of the structure of what it's supposed to look like. I understand in total there are 8, but in DC that's very different. There are a total of 10. So can we talk a little bit more about what those categories are and why they're important? Camille?
Sure.
So
DC Office on Aging believed that elder abuse was basically at pandemic levels. It needed attention in so many different ways, and it didn't fit neatly in any of the other or the existing 8 domains suggested by the World Health Organization. So we felt that we had to do our due diligence in this area and add another category or domain, if you will, for our Age-Friendly City initiative. Health emergency preparedness was another one. Being in the nation's capital, it's very important that we're prepared, and we lack in some areas with that as well. So we added that as a second domain, which made the 10 domains for our specific DC Age-Friendly City initiative.
And we added resilience, emergency preparedness and resilience.
That's right.
And that resilience has to do with other domains, including community support and health services. and social participation, being involved with one another and having value, having a reason to get up in the morning. So it's been a really important addition in terms of the initiative, and that's an area where George Washington University has been helpful, not only from the students in the public health school who wrote an absolutely magnificent poster board on this particular topic to give us best practices from across the world, as well as to bring together the voices that they had seen on paper as a result of all the listening that we did. So,
well, you know, George Washington is a research university, and part of research is not just you know, counting numbers, but it is about listening, finding out what people say, pulling it together. So the university is committed to both the students, the faculty, and the resources of the university. It's going to be about figuring out what exists, not just what needs are there, but also what strengths exist among our senior communities members. And so faculty are looking at, you know, research grants, whether it's interventions or other kind of things to kind of support the idea of age-friendly DC and what it looks like. I think even from my aspect, even as a teacher of health providers, it's also about 10 years from now, when my students are taking care of folks, to understand what is that going to mean to be in an age-friendly city, as opposed to, you know, not just having a senior person come to one clinician and then go to another clinician, and people aren't talking to each other, and then the senior has to go back home. And then the people don't know what one thing is connected to another thing. So the students have learned, I know my students have learned just by attending the town hall meetings and talking with residents, realizing how they have an important role in an age-friendly city as they're going to become future clinicians.
That's awesome. It really, what I'm hearing just from speaking with you all today, kind of this broad picture of how from college-age kids to middle-aged folks to elderly, everyone plays a really huge role in ensuring that DC is age-friendly. Because, I mean, at different stages of our lives, we do need to be aware, and we will need assistance in one area or one category or one domain or the other.
That's right.
So, you know, I heard you guys talk about this plan, the 5-year plan, but even thinking further beyond that, how do you guys keep the momentum? How do you keep the awareness? What's the outreach? What's the perspective on that? And how do you guys get others involved?
Well, AARP has been in the game for 53 years. It's what we eat, sleep, and breathe. And so we're here to work with DC Office on Aging, the City Council, the Mayor's Office, Deputy Mayor's Office, all the Deputy Mayors, business community, academic community, and we will advocate. It was a natural fit for us to work with WHO on this and create the AARP network of age-friendly cities in the U.S. And there are over 13 now. There are 35 international ones that WHO started roughly 10 years ago. And they approached us about 3 years ago and asked if we would partner with them to bring the initiative to U.S. cities. New York was first out of the gate, in Portland, Oregon, and there are now 15 others in the offing, about where we are in different stages. So we're going to keep engaging our members. We're going to keep sharing the message. We promote what's going on as much as we can through social media, our website, town hall meetings, and our everyday work.
Word of mouth, things like that. Do you guys do outreach events?
Oh, most definitely. The Office on Aging does outreach events from east of the river, all over the city, in all wards. Dr. Thompson is very adamant about getting his face out in the community, churches, schools, libraries, ANC meetings, you name it. And so for us, it started very early on when Gail first started back in 2012. We worked very closely with the New York Academy of Medicine when we launched our first data collection, which was through one of our DCOA senior symposiums back in 2013. And that was one of the ways that we made people, one, aware of age-friendly city, and two, that was our way of getting input from the community and using that as an outreach sort of tool and mechanism as well. And then we've hosted several town hall meetings since then. It's a part of our sort of umbrella approach to everything that we do there at the DC Office on Aging, because age-friendly city basically is so broad that you can throw everything sort of under that and help push that agenda a lot better with that sort of stamp of approval on there. So we've definitely incorporated it into all of our activities, all of our outreach. We even have our own website for it through the Deputy Mayor's Office.
Awesome. And then this is a question for DW. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'm thinking research. You have some data on this.
Yes.
I heard you mention, Louis, from New York, and I guess, was it Portland?
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, some of the other different cities in the states who are taking a part of this initiative. But where does our home of Washington, D.C. rank? Do we have that? Are we in the top 10? Can we say that we are? Or we're striving for that?
Well, you mean ranking it in the age-friendly cities?
Yeah, in comparison to the other cities that are also a part of this.
Yeah, as Camille was mentioning earlier, we're in the second year of a 2-year planning phase, and then there's a 3-year allowed implementation phase.
Yep.
And that's to start the implementation phase, not complete it. Some things might get done in that short time. Other things like affordable housing, that's fruit that's at the top of the tree.
Yeah,
it takes a little longer to do. So we're not there yet. We have to get out of the gate, and then we're off and running and racing
we sound
against.
like we're doing pretty well.
Well, no, we are. Well, once we get out of the gate, as an age-friendly city sanctioned by WHO and AARP, now we're in the offing competing with all the other branded age-friendly cities, and we can be as good as any of them. We're only bound by our own limitations and imagination.
Well, to be a little biased, talking with you all today, I feel as though you all are doing a great job, and we'd be pretty high up there if we did an initial comparison. Preliminary
We're
research.
extremely hopeful.
We had
Yes.
moved along terrifically well
most definitely.
before the initiative was undertaken, and we've moved from where we were, as all cities do. You start where you are and move on from there. And our preparation from the past had been very, very helpful.
And for example, I know our senior villages, we're leading in terms of the number of senior villages across the country. DC, or the district, is definitely sort of revered in that way in terms of the number of senior villages that have, I guess, sort of been created over the last couple of years. And I know that DC Office on Aging has been instrumental in creating and helping to create the last 2 that came online there in Ward 7 and Ward 8.
So George Washington University has a research project proposal to study the value of neighbor-to-neighbor support, which is what senior villages are about.
Awesome. So in your guys' opinion, what is the best way to get involved? Like if someone saw you guys on the street after viewing this program, and viewers were like, hey, I really love that segment, like what do I do to get involved?
You say, hey, I saw you on DC TV.
Right.
And I haven't been to the meetings. I want to help make the district age friendly.
Right.
Give me your card, give me your number, your email address. You can tweet us at AARP. We have 250 plus volunteers in the District of Columbia. You can volunteer with us in any capacity. We train people on how to advocate for themselves before the City Council. We're going to have to keep pressure on elected officials and the business community and the private academic community to keep their pledges and the like. So that, just pull my shirt collar. Pull my shirt collar.
So all of us have a story with regard to what we would like to see. And the block by block walk that we did this year covered over a third of DC to see what the walkability issues were, whether in fact the sidewalks need more repair, and they do, and whether the pedestrian walkways are safe or whether they need to be improved, and in a number of areas they do.
Because from personal experience, they have those big, large trees with the roots coming out through the road.
We have more trees in DC than any city in the country, so we're really ahead in that regard with our shade, but those trees cause eaves.
And while the bricks are beautiful, they present tripping hazards all over the place.
And that's for any age, and that's for women with heels, yeah, most definitely.
To me.
That's right, that's right.
That's happened to me. That's just awesome. It really sounds like you guys are really deep into the community and making great strides, as we mentioned before, to ensuring that everyone knows about this initiative. But what is your favorite part about the program and the work that you're doing thus far? I mean, I know we're in the initial stages, but what's been your favorite part of the journey?
What's been fun about this is to see how engaged anyone who understands what this is about, anyone who hears the story wants to get involved. And DC Office on Aging has an ambassador program,
Oh, cool.
which is a really useful way to get involved
That's
in
right.
any number of the initiatives that will
So
be
our
coming.
viewers can be an
They
ambassador?
can, yes, they can
Okay.
definitely reach out. I was going to mention that. Thanks, Gail. They can definitely reach out to the DC Office on Aging, either via phone or via the website, and also become an ambassador, which basically is just that you're going around educating people about the various programs and services that the agency offers.
including
Um,
Smart Money,
including-
for example.
That's right, Smart Money, Smart 911,
What's
meals,
Smart Money? What's that?
transportation. It's basically a program that started with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a federal government, a relatively new federal government agency, and is teaching people how to be smarter with their money, how not to be taken advantage of through certain venues where they may try to scam people, just to be
Helping them
more
keep
alert
aware
and
and-
aware
Yeah.
of the potential
awesome.
fraudulent activity that's out there. So, and then we have Smart 911, which is another citywide program that helps people enroll in the system, the citywide system, where your profile immediately comes up if you dial 911.
Great.
So that your stats and your diagnosis, if there's any information that you want emergency responders to know when you first call, they can have that information readily accessible, and you don't have to try to figure out certain things that might be helpful in an emergency situation.
And that initiative
Yeah, and
is
that's
one where George Washington University and other students are going to be very helpful.
right. And, as we think about how we're going to help seniors in a case of emergency, both emergency in their home, but also any kind of disasters, we really have to think about how do we make connections, and that's really what this is about. How do you
Totally.
make connections across the city so it's friendly for all ages, but seniors in particular. We do know that people live longer the more they're connected, and so it is about making connections. And so we're thinking, not thinking, but we're looking at what kind of things can happen to make those connections, whether it's emergency 911, but we really have to go around to the community and figure out who are seniors and what are their needs around emergencies, what are their health needs, and how do we make those connections for them.
You asked what the joy was?
Yeah,
the
what's
joy,
the
the
joy?
joy. The joy has been helping to instigate stuff in the community, and that's what ARP does, is advocating on behalf of people 50 plus. So that we could instigate in that kind of way. I love my job doing that.
That's perfect. I've learned so much, and I'm sure our viewers have learned just as much, even if not more, just from speaking with you all today. It's an awesome initiative, and I really hope that more and more people can continue to get involved so we can look at a longer, larger 10-year plan of everyone living in a more awesome, age-friendly DC. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mallory,
Thank
for
you.
having us.
No
Thank you.
problem. So guys, that's all the time we have. I want to thank our guests again today for sharing their expertise. If you want to learn more about Age-Friendly DC, visit agefriendly.dc.gov or call 202-724-5622. Take care, everyone.